Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Next in Time podcast. I'm your host, St. Tangarala, and today our guests are none other than Amber Nigam and Jie Sun. So one thing you want to know about Amber and Jie are that they're both the co-founders of a company called Basys.ai. They are both recipients of the 40 Under 40 Public Health Catalyst Award from the Boston Congress of Public Health. And Jie is an alum of Harvard University who studied a master's degree in data science. And Amber is currently a student at Harvard, like a master's degree student, pursuing a master's degree in health data science. So that's the basic introduction of our founders. But about the company, Basys.ai, it is a B2B SaaS platform that supports the clinical decision making for doctors at hospitals. They use proprietary AI technology to track, predict, and intervene to improve treatment outcomes for metabolic health. So Amber and Jie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So how's the weather over there in Boston? I hear it's getting warmer.
Well, it's very hot, and it's really hard to believe that in just a few months, we're going to have excruciating winter.
I'm actually loving it because I hate winter, so it's pretty good for me.
I know it's funny thing is I must have mentioned to a lot of guests already that I did do a bachelor's degree in Massachusetts. I studied at UMass Amherst, so I understand that kind of change in weather that could happen very abruptly. But then you're basically just focusing more upon just making sure whatever product you're building that is going to be a success by then, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, just want to get to know more about you individually. So, I think Amber, I looked at your profile and you saw that both of you, and also you, Jie, that both of you are the recipients of the 40 Under 40 Catalyst Award. So, what was that experience like in your mind?
So I could also give you a brief introduction about my profile. Before answering that question, I have 10 years of experience before coming into Harvard's Health Data Science program. Had a bachelor's degree in computer science, worked as a data scientist for 10 years, including working on my own startup, had a successful exit, in the process filed 3 patents, more than 5 research papers, all in machine learning again. Started with health data science program, but also went for a co-instruction studies at MIT for the course called Collaborative Data Science for Healthcare. So that has been my experience. I have been working in public health for the past 4 years with Dr. Leo at MIT.
Nice.
So the experience with getting that award 40 under 40 was nothing less than amazing. But I also would want to focus on the work that we have been doing, because of which we received that award, is focusing on metabolic health of the patients. Or for us, the beachhead market is diabetes. So we are helping providers to manage metabolic health, and the work that we have been doing was recognized through that award.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but that should be an amazing accomplishment just for starting out in a way, right? Is that true, or I'm just trying to make sure I've been reading your information and you basically were able to receive it, and now you're focusing more on a more software-based technology or AI-based technology that's helping patients with chronic diseases. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we feel is in the field of public health, COVID has amplified people's attention towards this field. But what's truly, you have to really applaud those people who have been working in the field for years, because it's really a field in which data science could make a difference. And we are working in the frontier of that for driving insights from tons of health data that we have ever accumulated, and try to make things a little bit easier for doctors, for patients on that ground. So I think on that note, receiving the award for us is a huge encouragement. It shows that there's absolutely value in what we're doing, and also, for the field itself.
Yeah, before I continue further, Jake, I just wanted to know about your background. I think I must have skipped a bit too far, and I forgot to know more about you personally.
No problem. So before coming to Harvard, I worked in healthcare for 8 years. So my career has been rooted in healthcare. I really love it. So I had a degree in statistics as a bachelor's degree. I started in healthcare consulting, later moved on to a French pharma company. I was doing medical business management in 5 Southeast Asian countries. So I was mostly based in Singapore, spent some time in France as well. I made a pivot to health data science a few years ago, in which I did disease modeling in various fields that include diabetes and also infectious diseases. So I was working in the data science function in MGH, and Dana-Farber Cancer Institute was also speaking in Women in Data Science Conference, which is organized by several universities, including Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. Yeah.
All right, that makes good. Yeah, that's a very impressive pedigree of accomplishments there. So I see that both of you are working on this big thing, this big vision that you're trying to pursue, which is it like, I'm just trying to make sense. Is this more about making healthcare more affordable to the masses, or what's the vision you're looking at with your project or your startup? Go ahead, Amber.
Well, yeah, that's correct. We are targeting metabolic health first. So the idea is to use technology to figure out the blind spots and then provide solutions to the blind spots for metabolic health. Of course, this would have implications for affordability as well, because once we have more information, once we can save time for doctors, it would have implications for patients' outcomes and affordability in that way.
Nice. Okay. And what about you? So how did you two meet? Just out of curiosity, just how did you two meet? What made you decide to come up with this overall game plan, this overall idea of the startup?
So for both of us, we had an atypical profile as a master's student. As we said, both of us worked for one 8 years, another 10 years before we decide to do grad school. So I went to grad school with one single objective. I wanted to do something different out of it. And Amber went into it with absolutely the mindset of starting up. So he basically asked everybody in the group. There was a Slack group. He was asking everybody if you wanted to start up. So I said, yes, this is how we started working with each other. And we have been, it has been 2 years. We have been working with each other on various ideas in the past 2 years. So the ideas can change, it might change, but we really enjoyed working with each other. It is a great, experience working with Amber as well. So yeah, this is how everything starts.
Right. Yeah, because I saw that you worked with another startup before pivoting to Basys.ai. Could you tell me more about that experience, Amber?
Absolutely. That was great experience as well, just that it had a limited time size and we wanted to focus on something which is more scalable and we can hire smart people to work alongside us. So that was the reason of leaving that idea. But at the same time, like this happens all the time with entrepreneurs, with startup founders. That idea was about instructing data science to the doctors. And we initially had great tractions within our bubble. When I say bubble, I mean, within Boston or MIT or Harvard, the doctors that we are reaching out to, they were mostly interested in paying for the service. But when we started reaching out to the places outside of Boston or Massachusetts, we got more pushbacks on the value proposition because there was nothing that we were bringing which had immediate values. And it seems like people are more interested in immediate ROI. So yeah, that was the reason of pivot.
Yeah. So is this more to do with the issue of the what would be an example of a pushback that you received from the previous startup? Like, would they be like, okay, this is not giving us results, or what is the reason for that pushback? Do you know?
It's one pushback is, okay, this sounds very interesting, but I do not have time. Okay, this sounds very interesting, but it is not directly relevant to my practice because I don't need to do research. I just need to see patient and keep the clinic running. So the value proposition isn't exactly clear. If we go beyond the Boston area, in which there are a lot of academic institutions where people are still concerned about, doing research, having good data science, analyze the clinical data. So going outside, the proposition isn't that clear.
As they say, Boston is more of the home for research, not building things from scratch kind of thing. But Yeah, it's I think in recent years I heard that I've been seeing the startup culture growing in the Boston area. I mean, I would say like Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook in the Boston area, and other people like HubSpot was founded in the Boston area, and other major startups were founded in the Boston area. So how like are you guys looking to make this huge impact in terms of the healthcare in the health tech space in a way in the Boston area?
So I think it's first of all, it's a great question. Boston or the East Coast is quite different from West Coast. The biotech and life science is amazing, and like you mentioned, Zuckerberg started Facebook. HubSpot was founded here. I feel it's a great ecosystem that Harvard and MIT provides you. I also feel West Coast is not bad at all. I mean, there are certain things with Coast that we really like. And I feel if someone can figure out the niche between East Coast and West Coast and can get the best out of both the worlds, I think that's something that we have found to work for us. So we would stay in East Coast, but at the same time, we'll have some meetings in West Coast and we'll fly there and come back. So we want to optimize on both sides of the story.
Yeah, the reason why how I met Jie was because she flew out to the West Coast, and we managed to have she came to one of our events, and that's how I managed to get to know her. And I was really fascinated with the way with your startup in general. So I just wanted to, that's the reason why I brought you guys in for this interview.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was amazing meeting everybody, including you at the event. It was an incredible event. Yeah.
And that is exactly the thing that we're talking about. Like East Coast is pretty good for life science and biotech, but it is constrained by the type of events that we saw there. And your event was absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, because I think that this is basically the running block. Because if you ever notice, like Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook in Cambridge, but then he decided to go out west because that's where he could find capital to get his business running. So it's kind of could be the same thing for you guys in the future. We'll see. But yeah, so I just need to understand, let's say, I think you basically briefly described the vision in terms of, Basys.ai. I just want to know more about I just want to know why Basys.ai just came into forefront, and like, I think it came out of your pivot. And I just want to know in depth as to what's the reason behind the creation of Basys.ai.
Sure. So, so we both had personal experience with diabetes, which is the beachhead market for us. My dad had diabetes, which was uncontrolled for almost 25 years.
And one of my previous professors worked on, the national diabetic progression movement in Singapore. So I got exposure to that as well.
So when we started discussing about this idea, it absolutely clicked with us. And we also knew that we wanted to do something in data science. We had our own expertise in that. And we were thinking about electronic health records. There's so much data in healthcare, how to make use of it. And we were figuring out which is that beachhead market we should be targeting. So diabetes happened to be the one which had the most overlaps. And it also had a great TAM size, so which also played a role in our decision-making process.
All right, what about you? I think you already said, Jie, you said that you were working in a health institute, and then were you dealing with diabetes personally, or were you dealing with family members who had diabetes?
Okay. Oh, I do not have family members with diabetes, but my parents are both doctors. So they do see, the whole family works in the healthcare industry. So primary care we're very, very familiar. I have a lot of personal experience looking at, my parents treating patients. So I would say healthcare, if you think about US healthcare, diabetes is one huge concern for chronic health. And this is also one of the areas in which healthcare cost is spent the most. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're not seeing any improvement on this front. And there's even increasing trend in diabetes. So we feel that this is an important problem. It also brings horizon to, the potential impact that we can achieve. So this is one of the motivations of working on the problem.
Yeah, so because I actually, funny that you brought up diabetes, like how it's getting more and more expensive to treat it. I've seen a documentary where people are spending more and more money on insulin shots, and because of that, it's like, okay, the money they're spending on controlling diabetes is a lot more than let's say paying their mortgage. So I can understand the fact that if you want to control diabetes, because we live in a very carb centric society, like in terms of our diets, it's very carb heavy, and because of that, I would say, is it because of that diabetes are becoming a big thing, and people are spending more and more money in terms of finding a way to control control their own form of diabetes in general. Is that true?
That's partly true. I mean, we're not MDs, but we do know that there are social factors contributing to the incidence of diabetes. That will include diet, and also people are easily influenced by who's surrounding you, right? And let's say your parents or your family, they just want to enjoy pizza or fried chicken or fried food, spaghetti, and it's very difficult for you to be different. And so, which is why, I mean, a lot of the options were talking about, driving behavioral changes towards lifestyle. But it's a difficult thing to do, to change who you are and what you eat.
Nice. So, just wondering. So, regarding Basys.ai, how are you building the product at the moment? It is using AI-based technology, that's for sure. But in terms of, you don't have to disclose like all the deep, dark secrets of what's behind the product. But in terms of a general way of how the functionality it is, could you explain more about it, Amber?
Absolutely. So we have a platform providers, and it helps them summarize the information about the patients. It also helps in risk profiling the patients, and then it provides them information about the next steps. So everything that the platform is made on is built on the patent that we have just filed. It's been a couple of months actually. And the work that we did on the patent was a combined effort of almost 7 years that we had been working on. So both of us have been working on several disease modeling. In this patent, we focused on diabetes and metabolic health and how we can address problems related to them. So this product that we have finally made and we are delivering to the hospitals is coming out of that research of 7 years.
So was that 7 years? Was that research cultivated? So I would say the research that you worked on the last 7 years, was that combined from from the university period, from your times in university and also in the workforce? Is that the case, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's makes sense. So how are you, what stage are you with your product right now? I think are you it's completely built, you're showing it to people, and is that the case right now, or still on the process of development?
So the most important part about any AI product is the data. And as you get more data, it evolves. For us, we already have the platform, the dashboard for doctors. At the same time, we also have a beta product based on the algorithms, based on the patent that we have filed, but it is always evolving, given it is a machine learning based product. So yeah, to answer your question more specifically, it's a built product. At the same time, it will always improve.
Yeah, because I see that machine learning based apps always have to keep iterating themselves too. They got to keep evolving, and they got to keep changing things. And but what is the most significant thing that your app is currently doing in terms of detecting diabetes?
That's a great question. I think the most important part where we come into play is detecting diabetic progression. And when I say diabetic progression, assuming Jie and I have diabetes, the way my diabetes would progress would be different from Jie's. And I would require different set of interventions based on my specific needs or my personalized needs, and Jie would have hers. So how do we define those personalized aspects and define interventions based on those personalization is the thing that we are targeting. Not every patient is the same. Doctors have limited time. How do you kind of make sense of all this information and save doctors' time is the intent that we have behind this product.
Interesting. And it just makes the doctor's work much more easier in terms of figuring out what to do, what problem. Let's just say, for example, I got diabetes today. And let's say your app just basically tells the reports, it gives the reports to the doctor saying, okay, ST has has like type 2 diabetes. He's dealing with a lot of issues. Let's just say what the app provide solutions for doctors to provide to their patients in a way, or would that be just giving you the data itself?
Yeah, so let's say you go to the doctor, and ideally, the doctor should receive a clear dashboard of how you're doing, your risk profile as a patient. Are you high risk, low risk? I mean, high and low means the probability of you getting worse in the future. So if you're high risk, then there's more likelihood to refer you to do further tests. And what type of test depends on the analysis that we do for the doctor. Let's say we have gone through your electronic health records, read all the lab reports, and have identified relevant fields in which you need more tests. This is one thing. Second thing is, based on the risk profile, how frequent should you come back to see the doctor? So that is another form of, providing information and good summary before the doctor even see you. So it saves them the time from clicking through the existing EHR softwares, which a lot of the doctors describe as a very messy notebook. It has the information, but you need to take a lot of time to dig through them and do mental synthesis of all the information. What we are doing is to have a clean notebook highlighting the important things for the doctors to act on. I mean, in the US, an average endocrinologist can only spend 10 minutes with each patient, and you do want them to maximize that time seeing the patient.
Okay, so what you're trying to do in terms of future impact would it be more about just basically making the hospital process, or let's just say the doctor's visit, much more efficient and short timed in a way. Like, you just want to get let's say a patient comes to a doctor's office, the doctor uses your app to detect, okay, these are your symptoms, let's say you're diabetic, these are the solutions you want to provide. It just cuts the visit to about 5 to 10 minutes. Is that right, in a way?
I would say that's a significant part of what we are doing. At the same time, we are also preventing certain blind spots that might affect patient outcomes. So patient outcomes is the single biggest key, I would say, that we are going after. So when we save time for doctors, sometimes we also help in making certain things that they might have skipped more apparent. So the probability of skipping that might go down.
Got it. Yeah, because I think because now, if you've ever seen that healthcare costs are just going up through the roof, people are visiting their doctor. I think people are just going to their doctors way too many times, and that is basically racking up on their medical bills. So if your product was in place, then that can at least, that in a way could cut the patient's visit to the doctor and by a lot. And at the same time, it does provide them the right solutions in terms of what they need to do for themselves in order to prevent a future doctor's visit. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. In fact, this is one of the biggest value propositions that we have for the providers and the hospitals, that we can cut down the cost for them.
Okay. And so what are your current challenges that you're facing right now with the product? Let's say it's not just only the product, but also, let's say, building product market fit. Let's say you're trying to sell this to hospitals and saying, okay, you're getting pushback from hospitals saying, oh, we need it. We can't afford, we would love your app, but we need your patients to stay with us longer or something like that. I mean, that's just a bit too hypothetical, but yeah, go ahead, Amber.
Yeah. One of the things that we see is traditional organizations like hospitals, they move at their own pace. And you might be, like, as a startup, you might want to move fast. Of course, you are in healthcare, so you cannot break things, but you do want to move fast. But hospitals move at their own pace. So for you to figure out a pace that works for you so that you're fast enough, at the same time, you're not disrespecting hospitals, figuring out certain things that you need to do. Meanwhile, hospitals are getting back with your request is something that is challenging, but it's challenging in a fun way for now.
Nice. So, but right now, what challenges are you currently facing with the product itself? Both of you can respond to this.
For the product, I mean, of course, it's to ensure that it answers doctors' clinical need. We are an AI product, and we make sure that we can integrate all the data that we have and then optimize it based on the clinical outcomes. I feel doctors in different institutions may have different needs. So we need to tailor and reflect that in our product. This is one thing that we always want to do with the product. Second thing is because of the EHR platform, and also, information is usually scattered around in the hospital. There's no single integrated platform for majority of the hospitals in the world. So each time when you try to standardize those information, you can ask anyone dealing with EHR, it is a challenge.
So EHR meaning electronic health records?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just trying to understand what EHR, but then I looked at my notes like, oh shoot, electronic health records. Like, why did I forget about this?
We took it for granted, I think, sometimes when we're speaking to people outside of healthcare.
Yeah, so I would always say if you're speaking to people outside of healthcare, you got to make things more specific on how it's described. But that's not the most important thing to worry about. But the most important to worry about is if the hospitals are able to take in your product and saying, okay, they are helping patients in a way. But right now, in terms of the scale of what you're trying to sell to, have you already sold this product to hospitals yet, or are you still working on it?
Yeah, we have actually. We have sold to one of the leading institutes in diabetes. And the process has been amazing. There have been so many learnings. We are also speaking with some of the leading institutes outside of diabetes as well into metabolic health. And hopefully we should be having a couple of customers in the next 2 months or so as well. So it's been a great process.
So what is your overall goals in terms of scaling the product? And let's say, are you looking to make a global impact in what you're doing, or are you just gonna, is it gonna be just on a case-by-case basis?
So for now, it's been on a case-to-case basis. Having said that, we have definite goals for the US market. In terms of for the next 2 years, we are focused on providers. In a couple of months' time, 3 months' time, we would be focusing on the payers as well, because our product has direct savings for payers. So I know we had not discussed this. When I say payers, I mean insurance companies. But if you actually improve the metabolic health for patients, and if you have better patient outcomes, it directly corresponds to the savings for payers. So we have a plan for providers. At the same time, we are reaching out to the payers. So that's what the process looks like for now. For other countries, we are considering India and Singapore as well, but not in the next year.
Got it. And so, yeah, I've been wanting to ask some quick question on this. So I see that you're trying to sell this on a B2B basis to hospitals. What's the reason why you're not able to sell it to customers? Is it because of the heavy competition from other apps, or is there a reason behind it?
Yeah, one reason is purely data-based, because we're AI first, and we keep on saying that, AI for healthcare, very often what's lacking is not AI. What's lacking is access to high quality clinical data. Because if you have raw data, you will only have garbage in, garbage out. This is what computer science people usually say, right? For this reason, we want to stick to high quality data as we start. And where does that data lies? It lies with providers, it lies with payers. So, and that is large amount of data to train good algorithm on. So this is one important factor for us to go provider first. Second is in this market, especially in the US, the B2B to C market, usually these apps are provided to patients through employers or insurance benefit programs, so it's B2B to C. It's quite competitive, and it is very difficult to be differentiated in that space. So based on, want data to market, we decided that B2B to hospital and payers is a better suited market for our strength.
Yeah, one small thing about that also is bringing behavioral change is difficult for patients directly. We feel providers are the change makers, and if you have to sustain certain behavioral changes, providers have to be involved in this process.
Okay, so it's like, even let's say if are you looking to provide employers with this system, or if the employers are providing health insurance and even taking care of healthcare costs for employees. Would you offer that? Would you offer this product to them in a way, or is it just only focused on hospitals?
For now, it's only focused on hospitals, but if there is an interest from employers in the product that we are providing, we might look into that as well. But from our side, there is no push on the employer side as of now.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So another question I wanted to ask was, how are you able to combine? I think Jay you brought up the point about combining healthcare and AI together in a certain way, and you see that there are challenges. So what are some challenges, Amber, would you see that combine both these two highly distinct fields? I mean, they can work simultaneously together, but at the same time, they're very completely abstract fields altogether. How do you manage to make them mend together with what you're building?
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, the way I see data science or computer science, it's all about making information in a format that you can use machines to work on. And as far as healthcare is concerned, even though it might be difficult to kind of connect the dots, but there is a lot of information out there which needs to be transformed in some sort of format so that you can look into the patterns that exist in that data. So as long as you are able to do it, to make the transformation that is from the healthcare data, to bring it into a format that computer science or data science can understand, or the data science algorithms can understand. That's when you kind of bridge the gap that exists right now. But once you're able to do it, you see a lot of advancements that you're currently seeing. I'm not saying many things are not hype. At the same time, there is a lot of benefit you can get out of data science if you are using certain tools in the right way.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just going to now wrap up the interview with one last question before we let you go. Just out of curiosity, what will be your advice? Because both of you are students at Harvard. You're building this very life-changing startup in a way. This could really make an impact in the future. So what advice would you give to other startup founders, or let's say even students who are building startups themselves? Like, what advice would you give and how would you do it?
I would go first. I mean, Amber obviously have new opinions. So always be persistent. Don't ever be discouraged. Just do it. There will be a lot of difficulties, but that's fine. Startup is difficult, but it's absolutely rewarding. Everybody should try it. I honestly feel that I have such a great experience. The type of learning and the amount of learning that I got through my startup, it's tremendous, and it's absolutely a great experience. So be persistent. Don't be afraid. Jump into it, and you will enjoy it.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I would follow the same path. We keep discussing about the point that magic happens when you commit. So I would say once you commit, you see the whole new different world. And when I say commit, I don't mean to say you should just follow something blindly. Of course, you should take market signals as well. But at the same time, you wouldn't see the real value that you might get out of startup. Like it might be something that you wanted to do, something that you wanted to always achieve, something that you really liked seeing that the other person has been doing, but you wouldn't be able to understand it until you do it.
Very cool. Thank you again, Amber and Jay, for taking the time to be a part of this show. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your success like skyrocket.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ST. It was amazing to be with you.